Hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining us at the Ecosystem Summit hosted by the Mills Fabrica and our two close partners, MTR and MIT Hong Kong Innovation Node. I'm Maggie Leung, the Incubation and Ecosystem Lead at the Mills Fabrica. And hope that all of you are having a good week and enjoying StartmeupHK Hong Kong Festival 2020. And today, in this session, we'll be talking about corporate innovation. And before we begin, here are a couple housekeeping notes. So we'll kick off with the panel discussion and then followed by the roundtable discussion where we would like to invite all of you, the participants online and in person, to join in by raising your questions and expressing your views. For those who are online, you can feel free to press the raise hand button on Zoom, and then you can join in our discussion. The moderator will notify you when it's your turn. And you're welcome to turn on your camera and unmute yourself in the roundtable discussion. And now I would like to pass it over to the moderator of our second panel, Bosco Leung, the Head of Innovation, Project Mars at MTR. Bosco, there you go.
Thanks, Maggie. So good morning, everyone. So welcome again to this second panel discussion of the Ecosystem Summit, focusing on corporate innovation. So as Maggie said, I'm the Head of Innovation, Project Mars from MTR Global Innovation team. My role is focusing on building startup from 0 to 1, and also to find innovation solutions for our business unit. Today, we're very happy to have 4 very senior and very experienced practitioners from different industries to share with us the insight about corporate innovation. So today's panel is meant to be an open discussion about the challenges and opportunities around this topic. So for the audience here, so you also get a chance to pick their brains about your pressing challenges, in the Q&A session. So without further ado, so let me kickstart the conversation by asking the panelists to use 45 seconds, so not too much, 45 seconds, to introduce yourself, to talk about what corporate innovation meant for you, and why you're spending 1 precious hour of your Thursday morning here with us. So let's start with Anson.
Thanks, Bosco. Good morning.
45
seconds. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. My name's Anson Bailey. I'm a partner at KPMG. Great to be here. I've actually, one of those older veterans, 20 plus years at KPMG. We used to be one of those boring accounting firms, but we're changing. And I think the important thing for all of us is really about that mindset change as well, Bosco. So I am here because I think we've all got to play our role in this ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And that means the corporates absolutely have got to work with the startups. We need to be a lot more agile, a lot more flexible. So I'm delighted to be here. I think we've got a great panel. So I'm going to pass on to my very learned colleague, Jayne Chan.
Thank you, Anson.
My name is Jayne Chan. I head up the StartmeupHK team at Invest Hong Kong, which is a government department responsible for helping overseas companies to actually establish and set up here in the city. I specifically try to work with the startups, the corporate innovation labs, the investors, and tell them about the business opportunities here in Hong Kong. And one of the things that make up the opportunities is the clients, the customers for these startups. So some of our role actually includes connecting startups to the relevant corporates or other kind of clusters. We also have worked with many of the corporates here in Hong Kong to talk about the corporate innovation journey and basically what kind of business models they can adapt, because each company is very different, the culture, the industry. And we've been working with a few of them in terms of what might work for them as well. So I'd love to share some of that information further on in the panel.
Thank you, Jayne. So Teddy?
So my name is Teddy Liu from New World. Anson, you're not that old. I've been in New World some 28 years. So by training, I'm an accountant, but I'm doing a lot of different things in New World. It's 30 years. And in current, some 5 to 10 years, I've been driving innovation. So I help Adrian, my boss, to drive a culture change, system change, platform change, innovation. So today I'm here because I want to share a little bit stories about New World, how we change, how we make ourselves differently. So, and my friend Ben is a head of innovation here. So he should be sitting here instead of me, but me, just, I do it in the platform, and he will be the innovator. Maybe somehow Ben should come up and share a little bit. Right. That's it.
We're always open to new ideas.
Hi, I'm Sam Lim. I'm the Chief Transformation Officer for Hong Kong Prudential. And I'm really here today because I believe that innovation is about a community. And in the spirit of the ecosystem, I think that if we can share and we can get sort of feedback from everybody, we can actually grow as a community and as an ecosystem.
Okay, thank you, Sam. So let's start with one of the most pressing challenges of the city, the COVID-19. So we are being put on standstill for like a few months. So when I go to shopping mall, it's pretty much empty, and then you're going online shopping and stuff. So I want to address this question to Teddy. So what New World is doing with like all kinds of challenges like under the COVID?
Right, okay, probably you know New World, right? We are quite a big company in Hong Kong and China as well. We do have a lot of built environment. You may say, Teddy, New World is the developer. Maybe yes or no, but we are saying we are not. Okay, we are building a lot more than just properties here. So with the COVID-19, we are just have a social distancing. That means our newer premises were a little bit empty, right? So you're not coming up to our premises like the shopping mall, the hotel. So how should we still survive? The point is, what is our core? If we know what is our core, and think about it, what you need as a customer that we can serve you. Somehow think about it. When you think that is your core, the customer landscape changed, behavior changed. Your core will become non-core. So we visit ourselves, okay, in that sense, can our core still fulfilling the customer's need? How would they need it? Where do they find us? So in that case, the whole journey mapping, customer journey mapping changed, landscape changed. Everything changed. So the only thing we can do is actually look into the customer want. They are the customer-centric things that we have to look into and see how we can serve them better with our core. So what we did, actually, we researched our customer journey mapping and see all the major touch points. If those major touch points were good, effective, and now maybe obsolete, abandoned. Some non-core thing, but you think it's not possible or not feasible or not economic to do something, may now become the most important touch point. So with that, we try to move our core components into those new touch points and reshape our customer journey map so that we try to get most the customer want and to serving them and try to survive.
It seems to be a large project. So how do you motivate your colleagues to bring them along with your journey then?
Wow, all the credit goes to my boss, right? Of course, not me, okay? Although I'm out. So my big boss, probably you know him, Adrian Jiang. So he's a man of visionary, actually very visionary. He knows that we are all, in Hong Kong, in the whole world, people are all panicked with the COVID-19. So we understand that panic is a natural reaction from people. The point is, panicking is nothing good. Nothing can help you survive. What should we do? What should we do? We should move on. After all, life change. The past is the past. We are facing the now and future. So in that sense, my boss pushed all our management. We go to the growth zone rather than on the fear or learning zone. Growth, you say, well, how can we grow? Under such panic and suffering. Growth is an objective, of course, but it's not that just simple. Growth is a mindset. Without equipped the growth mindset, you will do everything you can to make sure that you grow, right? So we push our management, all the top down, make sure to understand what is the growth zone means to us. How can we try to achieve our mindset change first, and then adapt and adopt and change, and that making sure that all our staff members understand what it means to us. We always say, you either grow or go. You don't grow, you go. So there's no choice at all. Waiting is just, a wasting of time. You don't wait, you just move. Of course, most of the time we make, failures, somehow, right? But failure is not bad. If you fail fast, fail smart. The most important part is you learn. So that's why the whole team just move on to grow. Otherwise, they're gone.
So I heard the one key message is that either you go or you will go. So you will be left inside the company. So taking in mind about the corporate innovators here, so be careful. So I will pass these questions to Sam because when we do the sharing before the whole panel things, he mentioned that actually during the COVID-19, Prudential actually pushed out apps and new functions, actually make the apps of Pulse app actually the top of Hong Kong's app channel. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, we're really on a mission to make our customers healthier and wealthier. So one of the things the timing of the thing with COVID was very important. So one of the things that we worked together as an organization was to come together very quickly with innovations and launch an application. It's Pulse, so you can please download that if you have a chance. And really it's about getting everybody aligned in the right mindset to come out to the market with something very quickly that's beneficial to our customers. So in that, we run certain things such as hackathons where we get hundreds of people together to create coding and prototyping, et cetera, so they can get these innovations out to our customers in a timely manner. So this is something similar to, you can see that model happens in many places. So I have to give a plug to Marina and the MIT Innovation Node. So they run these hackathons as well, and these sort of annual events where they bring together all these students to create prototypes that can actually go out into the market ASAP. So that's really what we're about, hoping to get our innovations to our customers as soon as possible.
So,
yeah, sorry, Bosco. I was also going to just interject, and I can't help myself. But what I was going to say is there's lots of great examples, and COVID-19, of course, it is the worst of times, but it also, I think, brings the best out of people. And I was talking to Peter Yan over at Cyberport, and one thing that I was very impressed about was that they have got this initiative called Braving the Epidemic, where they brought all of the startups. I think there were about 50 plus startups. And I think Peter's on the next panel, so we can double check this. But I think the interesting thing there is just bringing everybody together in the community. And again, working together as part of this ecosystem and coming up with some great ideas and great apps, great solutions. And I think that's another great example where Peter was telling me that there were people from around the world reaching out to the likes of Cyberport to understand what they were doing. So again, that sharing is very important.
Actually, yeah, you know, the government is not immune to this as well in terms of just the activities we have to do to try and, you know, react to the COVID and actually try to turn it into a bit of a business opportunity. Absolutely. This festival is a case in point. This Start Me Up Hong Kong festival, it's traditionally held in January, February of every year. And of course, Hong Kong and mainland China got the COVID situation a little bit earlier than maybe the other parts of the world. And we initially had to basically change the dates from February to July, but that was still going to be a physical event. That was still going to be, you know, a week-long series of a bunch of people from around the world flying over to Hong Kong and getting together and hopefully, you know, learn and share and be inspired. And then a few weeks after we actually changed the dates, of course, the situation was about the COVID was much more kind of visible at that point. And that's when we decided to move this format completely virtual as well. And it's no mean feat. We're talking about a week-long series of events with, you know, hundreds of hours of content, hundreds of speakers, trying to bring all the speakers on board, you know, the participants, the attendees who had already registered. We had to do a lot of different things in order to basically address the COVID. But I think, you know, certainly the past couple of days and this event now, we're seeing some fantastic things. We're leveraging the opportunities of this digital platform. Massive learning curve for sure, but the numbers, the reach, the kind of speakers, the participation from all around the world is actually been incredible. So, you know, there are these opportunities that you're talking about, Anson.
I also want to give some appreciation to the Mills team because I think the whole events are basically virtual in before. But then once the government said they relaxed the rules, and then I just talked to them and say, okay, can we have a physical event? Because I'm kind of hunger of people interaction. Like I'm quite tired talking just on Zoom and then sitting on the screen and stuff. Then look, see there's 50, 60 people here and then another 50 or so online. So one applause for the Mills team. So. Woo. So I want to direct the question back to Sam actually, because when you're talking about the hackathon and stuff, you mentioned that you get it into production in 4 days. So, but from my experience, doing corporate innovation, building new ventures in my companies, that there's always checks and check and balance from IT team and stuff. It will take months for things to deploy in the production. So how are you as a leader to help to facilitate the whole process and make it happen?
Well, I think thanks, Bosco. So I think that's part of the challenge of a corporate. So what we need to do is if we want to participate in the ecosystem and want to be part of this ecosystem, you'll see many companies, especially startups and new companies, moving at light speed. So they can make decisions on the fly. 1 or 2 individuals can make a decision and things happen overnight. So for us to be able to partner with that, all corporates, and I'm assuming we have to actually start moving our speed forward faster, right? To be able to coordinate with that. So it's all about having that flexibility mindset and making sure that the entire company has that kind of mindset, or the corporate has that kind of mindset. And it's not an overnight process, but it takes some time to get there. And as Anson was saying, it really is about getting everybody's mindset in the community to start thinking that way. And as well, having the startups have that patience to work with larger corporates and saying that, okay, things cannot happen overnight as well, and to understand that and to find that balance, and slowly as a team, as an ecosystem, get faster and faster and faster together to benefit Hong Kong or benefit the broader area.
So we can hear about like mindset, like for like all the panelists here. So I'll just direct to Anson. So how do you actually change the mindset of people? Is it ever possible?
Well, I think what we often forget is that all of us are actually incredibly creative. But I think that creativity gets beaten out of us, especially in the larger corporations. And I think that's where we also need to work with those startups as well, Bosco, because they are, I think they still have that creativity. They tend to be a lot more flexible and agile in their thinking. So I think that's where we can join forces and learn a lot. So that mindset change, I think, is incredibly important. And sorry, I'm going to do your job here. I'm going to direct a question to Teddy, because Teddy, I mean, talking about mindset change, I mean, are you guys just another property company? How do you think?
Sorry, you're wrong.
Right.
We are not property company. We call ourselves Cultural Institute. Ben, you should have remembered that, right? So what does it mean as a Cultural Institute? What we sell, we are not selling you flat. We don't sell you bricks. We sell you living experience. That means we want to embrace you from cradle to grave, anytime when you wake up until you sleep, that every single second that you be living with us, within us. We want to build an ecosystem to contain you, to connect with you, to serve you. So that is not just building, isn't it?
Yeah.
So can I take more time on sharing some interesting story about how I challenged my team of executives some years before?
Definitely. I'm looking forward to the story.
All right. Okay. Back to 15, I can remember. We did have a WhatsApp group of all the senior executives. So one day I just have an interesting story. I try to make up the story and I say in the WhatsApp group, like, hey, somebody asked me, Teddy, who is your competitor? I ask myself. And then I say, so what do you think? Salonkai? Swire?
MTR?
MTR? So who are the competitors of New World? And I say to myself, Tesla. Tesla? Teddy, you're not a car builder, right? Tesla. Then I continue the story. Think about it. If you have 1.5 million Hong Kong dollar, what would you buy? By that time, right? I mean, the tax is still, not there, right? So $1.5 million, what can you buy? You can buy a flat of 100 square foot, right? 4 walls, nothing more. 1.5 million. But 1.5 million, you can buy a Tesla, right? So if you were the kid, what would you buy? Think about it. If you buy a flat, your mom's at your back, pointing you, study. So what is his life? In jail, isn't it? But if he buys a Tesla, 1.5 million, what is it? It's a game center. It's a karaoke center. It's a film center. It's everything there. It's so comfortable, so enjoyable, right? So 1.5 million means a lot to him in terms of experiencing.
Teddy, can I just confirm, you are actually an accountant?
Yes, I am. I'm still doing internal audit for New World Group. I'm still the head of compliance of New World, right? At this point of time. The point is, so what are we doing? We are not competing against, property developers. We are competing against every single cent you want to spend with whom, and that. Why you spend it? You want some experience back, right? So we are competing against you. How you spend your time, where you get your experience. We want to build it for you. So Tesla is one of the best, experience creator. So he is, the major competitor back then, right? Of course, it changed your time. But the point is, why we compete against him? Because we want to, get you into our ecosystem. And that's every single cent, it counts.
So let me take my job back as a moderator and direct the questions to Anson. So there's a transformation of the identity of New World from the property developers to experience creator. So is there anything sample that for KPMG? So you said that you're changing from like boring accounting firm, yeah, into what?
Well, that's a very good question, and I think we will continue to be a boring and conservative accounting firm. That's what clients like. But I think the interesting thing is we have now got teams doing AI, artificial intelligence, blockchain, data analytics. And what I was going to say about corporate innovation, Bosco, I think it requires what Teddy just gave us an example, is out-of-the-box thinking. And I think corporate innovation needs to be that kind of out-of-the-box thinking. So I think that's very important. The other thing I was going to say is we've got to follow those changing consumer behaviors as well. And I think that's really a very key point that Teddy was also making. So that is incredibly important. Follow your customers on their journey. Don't get left behind. And I think corporate innovation is about that. And I wanted to kind of give you another example for KPMG, is that we acquired a very interesting platform business in 2017 called Matchy. And Matchy was basically a platform where we could be a matchmaker, if you like, and we could bring all of those big financial institutions and corporates, and we could link them up with all of those really exciting, cutting, leading edge startups, fintech companies, solution companies, leading innovators. And I think for ourselves, we have to reinvent ourselves as well. So we see ourselves now as the glue where we can play an important role in the ecosystem, where we can bring the corporates kicking and screaming, but we can bring them along and get them linked up with these incredibly smart young innovators, just like people like Ben Wong, right, over at Eureka Nova.
As a practitioner in the field of corporate innovation, I just have one question, because we try to work with startup before in the accelerator program. We do value the agility and the new ideas and the energy they bring to the corporate, but we also see the challenges of the internal team communicating to them. So startup want quick and dirty, but the corporate we want to save, and we want quality and we want stuff. So what actually KPMG help, in addition to the matching in the matching platform, to help to bridge the gap between the corporate and the startup world?
Well, I have a lot of colleagues like Irene Chu's, our head of new economy and life sciences, but we've got a team of very, of dedicated professionals at KPMG that spend hours and hours helping to nurture the next generation of these startups. So we've got to make sure that they understand the corporates as well. I think we have a pretty good understanding of the corporates, but we've got to make sure that everyone's on the same page and also not wasting each other's time. So getting connected with the right people, getting connected with the right business units, and really understanding what are the problems that need solving.
Can I direct this question back to Sam again? Because last time you talked about that you internalize some of the capabilities. So Anson is talking about, okay, let's work with startups, like we draw external talents in helping the company to change. But for you, it's like you also mentioned that you want to build your own capability. So you want to have your own teams, like everything in-house. Can you talk about your philosophy behind, or what's your experience on that side?
Well, yeah, that's a little bit unfair, Bosco. So I think that it's not really about per se having in-house capabilities versus partnerships, but we have to think about it as the topic today, which is an entire ecosystem, right? So as corporates, and I represent, I think, all corporates, not just my company, we want to be able to be participants in these ecosystems where we leverage startups, as well as internal talent, or talent from other areas who are actually flowing back and forth through the startups into the companies. So in that way, the entire ecosystem actually benefits from innovations from individuals and innovations from other areas such as education, et cetera, where we can actually increase the value and increase the capabilities of Hong Kong or our city. So maybe Jayne can echo some of this, or
we have a group of moderators on time.
We do. I mean, this is it. We're all used to just like talking and
Bosco, you're out of a job. You're out of the job.
I'm going to be a panelist now.
I was actually going to restrain myself and not ask too many questions of the other panelists. But in terms of just the corporates that we've seen, and we're not talking about just corporates. I mean, we've got other kind of even smaller kind of companies are looking to innovation these days and looking to see how to interface with startups and innovators. And the kind of model that we've been seeing, we've got very traditional industries, for example, the hospitality industry, hotels, that really they were disrupted quite early, I think, with the whole sort of like online travel agents thing, starting to really directly, making those bookings and cutting them out to a certain extent. They've had to embrace that. So on one hand, they had all of this and they basically came up with their own kind of platforms or partnered with companies. But in terms of other areas of innovation, and I think sometimes until you're forced to actually, because of business issues, if you see another group of people taking a big chunk of your revenue, then you say, as a company, whether you're corporate or whether you're an SME, you think, oh my goodness, I've got to address that. This is going to hit my bottom line. Maybe not so much in its early days, but later on, it's going to have a massive impact. And, as you mentioned, Sam, the whole culture doesn't happen overnight, that mindset within a company. So you've got to start taking little steps, don't you? And with some corporates, we've seen them really sort of like decide, okay, this is going to really impact my business and I'm going to go big. They're saying, I'm going big or I go home. They're going big. So you've got the likes of HSBC, who basically, when they started to focus on innovation, suddenly set up these massive innovation teams around the world. Certainly in Hong Kong, it was quite famous when they took, a massive amount of space at WeWork and put a lot of the innovators in there or other team members with external companies. So you had that way. But you've also got people, companies that don't have that kind of budget, but who still realize they've got to try and embrace this in some kind of way. And frankly, if you don't have the internal resources, how do you approach it? So, some of these kind of companies have been sort of like wrestling with different kind of models, but a lot of them have successfully, just gotten a partnership person on board. I mean, that's one step, isn't it? And you basically start embracing and being exposed to some of these interesting innovations that are out there. And then, the challenge then is that once you've connected to these companies, is how you bring it in. And Bosco, you mentioned that it's not, it's all very well to say like, we need to do this, we need to embrace innovation. But structurally, it's so hard and so different. The mindset, not just like in terms of that quick and dirty versus like the trusted kind of steps, but also the fact that the way of working is completely different. You've got matrix structures in corporates, with, decentralized kind of, decision making in some aspects, and then other sort of functions are very centralized, and everyone's got the business units who heads up has different KPIs that they're trying to address. It's like, so it is a little bit of a challenge. So, Peninsula, for example, have, brought a person in-house, and they started off by just trying to get everyone on board, just doing those little tweaks to processes that you can see the improvements on bottom line. And slowly but surely they started ramping that up as, your business unit heads got more involved, they got more buy-in, and they started, even creating an accelerator. So I think that whole corporate, innovation journey is not straightforward. It really is. And I think it's very easy to come up with these buzzwords, but it really is a challenge, and I think people have got to recognize that and address that specifically for their company.
Totally agree. There's always like tears and blood in the process. So there's questions that before the Q&A session starts. So I will directly back to Sam because he took my role as a moderator. So you mentioned we have an interesting conversation about incentives. So I was asking, okay, what kind of incentives you gave your staff to innovate? And can you share your response to the audience? Because I think it's very insightful.
Yeah, so just from a personal perspective, a lot of times I come across individuals who might say that, well, what is my incentive to innovate or go from outside of my box to innovate outside? And I tend to think that my own personal view is I tend to think that innovation really is your own mindset and comes from yourself and your desire to say that I want to make the world a better place, or I want to do something different, I want to make a change. And so I tend to think that that is a very typical example of how, as community members here, we need to actually start influencing those around us to start thinking in that way and saying that, okay, let's make everything better, faster, more forward-thinking, rather than thinking in terms of incentives. And those incentives and those benefits will come from that. And it's really that desire and the passion to innovate that I feel that is part of all the startups, many CEOs and many founders, as well as part of a lot of the corporates nowadays. We hope to embrace that kind of mindset.
Bosco, I was just going to echo Sam's point as well, just talking about incentivizing the ecosystem. Trophies are good. It's always nice to have a trophy, but I think if you ask any of those startups, they want money and they want time. And that's what we've got to, that's the key message there, okay? Money and time. But it also, Sam, I think it's two-way traffic as well. So that the startups also need to understand with the corporates, time is a very important commodity. Time is money. So don't waste those corporates, don't waste the time as well. So it's a two-way street, Bosco.
Can I add a word here? I want to just have a core. If you need time and money, come to New World.
Or MTR.
Come to BAN.
Or MTR, right?
Well, I want to make a call first, right? Why we do that? As a corporate, we are big, of course, right? We do have the resources. We do have the branding. We do have the connectivity and all the networking here. But we need more new brains. So as startups, you need new brains, right? We need your ideas. We can collaborate, cooperate, co-create. We need you. So in that case, I mean, if we have you into our systems, into our ecosystem, you can enjoy, you can grow, and we grow together. So please come to us, come to BAN. BAN, please stand up and let people see you. So you are the one to attract more greater startups to make New World a better new world.
An interview will start in 15 minutes. So, so as Anson said, don't waste anyone's time anymore. So we start to the Q&A session. So anyone from the floor would like to raise the questions because we use up. Oh, there's one question over there.
Hello, this is Peggy from Invest Hong Kong. I think in Hong Kong, we really take pride in having lots of big corporations putting in place in very well-structured programs to bring on innovative solutions to integrate in their business lines. But also, I would like to echo Jayne's view that, that there exist a lot of more traditional corporates that are that they see the value of bringing a community of startups to challenge the way, the existing way of doing business. And, but they don't know much how to go about it. And I wonder if big corporates like New World or Prudentials, if you guys would, if there is any way to contribute to a more open, collaborative system in helping these more traditional companies in jumpstart their innovation journey and sharing your experiences of bringing innovation into your businesses with them so that they can cut the learning curve shorter.
So Teddy?
Me first or Sam first? Or your choice?
You can.
Okay, thank you, Sam. So, of course, yes, please. I mean, after all, what do you mean by, ailing or, obsolete business? There's no business ailing. There's no business going on or going off. I mean, it's only the mindset that's going off. Everything has an innovation here. Everything can be innovated, can be rebrand, renew. So in that case, I think, well, when the old business are going off, because the owner, the founder, or somebody managing it doesn't think about a new way of doing it. So if he lacks the ideas, we are sure, try to help them. We want to build an ecosystem. Doesn't mean that we want to own it ourselves. We want to own it together. For example, go back to New World. You can see what we did in the COVID time when we are tracing against mask, right? So we are so bold to build our own mask factory, even though it's not a core competency. Why we did that? The point is we see that mask is a basic essence of everything, right? Without health, there's nothing. So health is something that for everybody, not just for employee, not just for everybody, right? It's something that we need for our everyday life. So my boss is so bold that we buy machine, we build our factories, we build all the masks, and we distribute to all those needed, particularly to those as an NGO. We build a machine, simple machine that they can just, I mean, there's a lot, the vending machine, they just did the card and then have the mask touchless. That means then we're stopping the, the COVID spreading. We're doing that not just for New World profit. We're doing it for creating shared value. We are proposing CSV all the time since 2018 formally. We form a lot of CSV activities here, and this mask is something on CSV. So mask, we know that it's a traditional business. It's outdated, but we do it in a new way. So look into the value rather than just, what we are doing in the past, what we had the glory in the past, but what we are doing, why we do that. That value should be manifested in a new way. So if we can do some help to other, industry, why not? We want to build that together.
Sam?
Yeah, so my answer really for my personal view, and we didn't really get a chance to touch too much upon this today, it really is about the people, right? So if you think about how we all are innovators, or everybody in the community is starting to improve on innovation levels, there's nothing stopping everybody from entering different industries. So I think that is where the start comes from, right? And then eventually over time as a community, if our innovation levels increase, then naturally all industries will benefit from that.
Anson, you have something to add?
Yeah, good point, Bosco. Again, some great points that are being shared. Sam, you hit the nail on the head about the people. I also want to talk a little bit about the trust, because the issue with a lot of the startups and the young companies is they don't yet have the trust like the more traditional corporate companies. And that's where we all need to work together. We need to collaborate, cooperate, co-create that Teddy mentioned. But trust, I think, is a really important factor, Bosco, that we really need to pay attention to. The other point I was going to make as well is that when I look here at Hong Kong, we're blessed. Hong Kong is an international finance center. And so I often hear about how startups are coming from overseas as well, coming to Hong Kong. And so they should. We welcome them with open arms. And they're coming here for financing. But I also think we're missing a trick in the corporate world, where we do need to encourage more work with those startups. We need to see more of those POCs, those proof of concepts, and really get the startups working with our traditional Hong Kong companies, as well as the bigger corporates as well. So I do hope that in the future that, yes, we will maintain that traditional finance hub, but I do truly hope, and I actually believe that we will become a corporate and innovation center. But we can't do these things in isolation, can we? We need the New Worlds, the Prudentials, the KPMGs,
MTR.
and the MTRs, of course, Bosco.
Government.
But we need everybody working, and we have to cooperate, of course, and leverage with the government as well. I think that's really important, Bosco.
Anson, I think you raised a very good point about trust. So because there's always a challenge for me. It's you have to pitch to the seniors that, okay, let's try something with startup, but it may fail. So I just wonder if you can give us an example. So there's 30-second elevator pitch that you have to give to a senior management that you want to work with the startups that potentially fail, but it could potentially bring some great benefit to the company. And then how you do that? So you have 30 seconds from now.
30 seconds. Okay, I would talk to our management and saying that, listen, guys and girls, don't get left behind. We really, being traditional, perhaps we are a bit more conservative. We're not so agile. We're not so flexible anymore. And we need those young minds. We need those young innovators to kind of come in and help us. Because if we don't, we are going to get left behind, right? Since, I think, 2000, 52% of those Fortune 500 companies have gone. They've already disappeared because they didn't hear the jungle drums. They didn't smell the coffee in terms of they didn't realize, you know, that innovation is here, digitization is here. So we also need to work together in the corporate world, Bosco. And I think that's very important.
Perfect. So there's a raise of hand online from Alistair Drew. So maybe we can allow him to ask the question directly.
Hi, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Oh, excellent. Well, good morning, and thank you for letting me into your conference. I was really interested to, I think, focus on corporate innovation. You've spoken a lot about startups, and you could be forgiven from thinking that innovation is only about startups. And I'm really interested in corporate, really, innovation. And I think looking at some of the things that Jayne was saying about how tough it is in corporates to innovate, you know, you have to think very clearly about your innovation strategy, the culture, the process. You know, it isn't just about creativity, it's about driving a good idea through to implementation. So process of driving something through a corporation is really, really important. Also metrics and rewards, we touched on that very briefly, but most managers in organizations are driven by this year's profit. You know, not many of them have KPIs that are linked directly to innovation. How many managers, for example, have a KPI that says, I need to generate so many new ideas in a year, or implement an idea, or take a risk? So I think the corporate innovation can be very different, a very different world to the startup world. And I think, you know, Hong Kong is probably missing a trick in terms of engaging in more, I guess, traditional innovation processes, or bringing talent into organizations to drive innovation from a total innovation system. So I think we need to be very aware of corporate innovation and also the startup community, which is kind of like an open innovation system. Relying on startups for all of your innovation could well be a kind of mistake, and not making enough perhaps of the opportunity. I'm just interested to perhaps hear what Jayne has to say, because she was the one that perhaps spoke the most about corporate innovation. Thank you.
I think fantastic points you've raised, actually, and you know, it's definitely not a straightforward process, as I mentioned. And it's not just about startups. I do understand that. It's you know, you've got companies right now who have set up under the auspices of R&D labs, for example, who have been trying to address specific pain points within a company. But, you know, the kind of issues that you're talking about, it's not just about the interaction potentially with startups, it's even identifying the areas where you can see the improvements. You know, we call them, you know, problem statements or something. It's not a buzzword. It's basically saying, you know, I've got these issues with my company that I just think we can resolve. And then if you get a whole bunch of people together, a hive mind, to try and come up with solutions, doesn't even have to be technology. I mean, we often associate innovation with technology. It doesn't have to be. No. You know, we mentioned before, even just talking about process innovation and all these kind of things. So even though we haven't really addressed it, I think, you know, that whole idea of identifying areas within your company that you know there's going to be a better solution to resolve it. How do you resolve it? You've got the potential, the open innovation model, whereby you put that problem statement out there, and hopefully you've got some really smart people that will address that, and you can bring that in. But you can also do it internally as well. I mean, in Invest Hong Kong, we do this regularly. We think, my goodness, we're a government company, you know, organization, and with that comes a lot of associated bureaucracy. There's no getting around it. But are there ways to improve it? For sure. And are we bringing in startup and innovations from outside? We're looking at that, but that's not the only way. We are basically having suggestions by staff that have just come up and said, we see we can do X, Y, Z. And seriously, the kind of paperwork, even simple things for us when we've got so loaded down in paperwork, has actually made a massive difference. So, you know, completely address your point, Alistair. And I think, you know, sometimes it is, we tend to forget it's you know, it's not just, you know, startups. It is very much just the changes required in-house and the solutions that can come to resolve those.
Yeah, Alistair, great to hear from you. And I agree with Jayne's point. I think corporates, they have very entrenched attitudes. And it's like a ship, right? It takes time to kind of turn and steer that ship. I do now see, I think, a lot more corporate innovation taking place, but it takes time. And I think equally, it takes training as well. So one of the things that we all have to do is we have to really start upskilling our own people internally to ensure that they have the right types of skill sets and those digital skill sets and the AI and the blockchain. These are all really important. But Alistair, another key message for all of us, you touched on metrics. And I think that is incredibly important. Yeah, if you're going to fail fast. But corporates want to see tangible results. And that's also important. We can't waste that time. And the other point, Alistair, is we also have to get the buy-in from those business units as well. That is so important. So if you're just doing it for a marketing gimmick, then it's going to fail. It is 100% going to fail. And I've seen that happen in the past, unfortunately.
But a quick question, like how to measure the result of innovation then? Because it's failing fast. So if a staff come to you and say, okay, I tried 10 things, but all fail. So how are you going to do the appraisal for them in the year end? So maybe that question I pass it to Sam and Teddy.
Yeah, okay.
That's a good question. That was a really tough question. Over to you, Sam.
So I think one thing we're missing or we didn't discuss as well is the link between innovation and the customer, right? So in all aspects, whatever innovation as a corporate or a startup we do, we're still accountable to our customer to make them either healthier or wealthier or whatever it is, or make them happier. And that does not change fundamentally, even if you're a corporate or a startup. And we have the same accountabilities as people that run businesses, right? To say that, well, if your startup does not really benefit a customer at the end of the day, you will run out of time and you will run out of funding. And that is no different than any sort of innovation in a corporate as well. So that is sort of the main linkage that we need to keep continuing to think about. So, you know, I heard the same metric of measuring how many ideas I came up with. I'd come up with 1,000 ideas here on the spot, right? But it really is that impact at the end of the day of which ones actually help our customers, right? And I think that that is something shared upon the entire ecosystem, not just in one individual company or one individual startup.
Thank you. So Teddy, anything to add?
Well, I don't want to make you misunderstood me. We knew, well, we are not startup in a sense, but we are a startup in some sense. So we are doing a lot of corporate innovation within our company as well. We want to, want more. So that's why we want to invite you as startups to come to us. This is not just we rely on you. And how we do the measurement on, make sure that the innovations are effective. So previously we do KPIs, right? We have a KPI into innovation. So the more you can do that on the KPI meeting, right? I have a joke with the KPI. In Cantonese, if you say KPI, if you do it, it's KPI achieved. If not, IPK. PK means screw up, right? IPK. So you know the point, right? So in that, I screw up. So in that case, it's a KPI thing. But yet now we are changing to another more ambitious goal. We use OKR right now. So what it means that? It means that put it forward. More stress goals, more stress one, more emphasizing on something on impact. So beyond just KPI, if you do more impact than just your API, then you'll be really remunerated. Otherwise, you're just doing the same thing. You just get your salary or your sort of incentive structurally. But you do the OKR thing, and then you go beyond and stress your goals, and you achieve it. That is something different. So what we did, actually, my boss gave us, questions. So I asked, what 3 things that you do is different, that based on the core and adapt to the COVID? What 3 things? And then the second thing is, what are the impact of these 3 things that you think is important that will impact on the business? You think about 3 things, what the impact, and then if you want to do it, what are the challenges? And then how can we help you? So we are given a chance to put forward something different, something that will be impactful, something that we need the help of the corporate and move on. By doing that, we are aligning all these things. With the alignment here, you will move on. So as I said, you either grow or you go. We don't wait. Fear is not an option. So in that case, we spearhead all the people's, mindset, we spearhead all the resources, looking at new touch point and go do something different, something impactful. And that's we want New World to be different. And now I'm here because I want to call on you to see if you can just go along with us. That's the reason why I'm here, why I'm talking with you. I want to grow with you together.
So there's another questions from online platform is that we talk a lot about like how corporate benefit from working with startups. So, but the question is asking, okay, what startups get to gain from the collaboration with corporate? So I can start with myself because I work with startup. So I think what they can do is that they have a portfolio and then they can also talk to the industry expert and they can also build connections with the people who are actually using their products in the POC process and fine-tune their product. But is there any other benefit they could get from the mentorship of a corporate or a collaboration of POC?
Good point, Bosco. I think I mentioned it earlier on that they hopefully can get potentially some investment. They'll get hopefully some money, maybe some investment, but they'll also get time with professionals. They'll get time with those corporate business units. There are real life problems that they'll get to work on. So I think that is something that where startups can benefit. And again, collaboration, co-creation. The other point there is they get access. And that's really important because they get access to all of those corporate networks. That is really, really valuable.
So time, money, and access. So, okay, we only have like a few minutes left, so quickly jump to another questions. So there's one question about like the organization structure. So they're asking if this is a prerequisite of like doing corporate innovation or we can actually do without it. So anyone would like to take on the questions?
Well, I think innovation is a culture rather than just a structure, right? If you have a very innovative culture, meaning that you look in innovation as your future success, the way to survive, you will do innovation at a time. Of course, in a structural way, you have to read a lot of incentive, you have a lot of communication, you have a lot of reporting, a lot of measurement here. These are all the structure here. It's easy to do. The point is, if you don't have the culture set at the forefront, you don't innovate.
So thank you so much for Teddy. One last question from online platform is that there's a lot of talents from overseas, like who's stationed in Hong Kong, like who knows a lot about innovation and stuff. Like, is there anything that we can tap into the pool of talents in that? Is there anything that Jayne can help answering?
There's a lot of resources for Hong Kong. We really welcome a lot of smart talent with experience in this area. If they're looking for potential jobs, for example, there's actually programs for, if you've got experience in certain areas, you can actually just come to Hong Kong, get a fast track visa without even getting a job. It's part of the Tech Task kind of program, sort of talent admission scheme. There's also a lot of programs in place to try and support innovation. So, in terms of on the public sector, for example, you've got Hong Kong Science and Technology Park, who have the Global Academy, Accelerator Academy, whereby corporates can actually try and find talent from all over the world and solutions from all over the world through that. There's Cyberport you've mentioned as well. Invest Hong Kong, obviously, we're here to support where you overseas looking to tap into Hong Kong. But there's also lots of really fantastic private kind of collaboration as well. So we've got, Eureka Nova, part of the New World Accelerator. They've generated, they've always got different cohorts happening. We've also got Leung here as well. They've done a lot in terms of like innovation and trying to interface startups. The Cocoon guys are here. So there is a lot of information, a lot of private initiatives, as well as like public kind of facilities to tap into. And if they are anyone overseas looking to come into Hong Kong, please reach out to us. We've got 30 odd offices around the world.
Jayne, also just to add on, 5 years ago, how many accelerators did we have in this town?
A quick question.
It was probably about 2, Cyberport and Science Park.
Right. And how about today?
Gosh, I can't even count how many. We've got all these different kind of programs. We've probably got about 20, 30, 40.
It's got to be 40 to 50.
Actually, yeah. When you look at individual as opposed to institutions, yeah.
Exactly. And then add the corporate innovation labs
Yes.
as well,
Yes.
because you've got all of these innovation labs all around, whether they're in cyber. I think Lenovo have got their innovation lab in Cyberport. Siemens have got their innovation lab in the HKSTP.
Mizuho.
Yeah, I mean,
The
there's
banks,
a lot
yeah,
of them now
yeah.
that are coming up.
So lots of opportunities for people from both local or from overseas. So interview from New World is starting 15 minutes later, right? So, well, but I think we are almost running out of time. So last but not least, if the panelists, if you're going to give only one advice to the people who are like in this like corporate innovation journey, so what would it be? Like 15 seconds.
Okay. Can I have 2 pieces of advice?
Yes.
Okay.
Still 15 seconds.
I'm greedy. One for my corporate buddies, don't get left behind, because that's really important. And I think for all of us, we have to innovate. We've got to innovate. That's the life we are faced with right now. So final buzzword, innovate or die. Very profound. Looking forward to your buzzword.
I'm going to skip the buzzwords, actually. I just think it's for SMEs as well as the corporates. I think, you know, it is a case that there's this change coming. There's no escaping it. The COVID has probably pushed that much further than, you know, and compressed that time frame. You've got to do it, whether you're doing it in steps, small steps, that's fine. Whether you decide to go really big, that's also fine. But it is something you've got to start, and you've got to start it very soon.
Okay, thank you. Teddy?
Well, I want to steal the words from my boss. Okay, he said very simple. You see crisis, I see opportunities. That means if you are a very growth, mindset person, you don't have a limit. It's a matter of yourself. You want to grow? That's you. Always opportunities there. How to make it, and then you just go on and do it. Don't wait.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, I would just say focus on people and customers.
Okay, thank you so much. So let's get a round of applause for the panelists today.